Carmel Amit.
Hello.
Hello, Carmel. How's it going?
Pretty good. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here with us tonight. Of course, the Buddy Game Spring Awakening. It's on Paramount Plus, and it's a fun little movie sequel to the Buddy Games, which came out about I'd say about 5 years ago, 4 years ago now.
2019, I think.
Yeah, and Josh Duhamel got the crew back together again. Well, at least most of the crew back together again, and you got to come along for the ride this time as well as a very interesting antagonist. Tell us about Phoenix.
Phoenix is the love of my life. I had such a pleasure playing her. She is, yes, the antagonist, the villain. Phoenix does not take no for an answer. She knows exactly what she wants and how to get it. She is ruthless. She is very wealthy. She's also fun. Yeah, and she's a bit kooky.
Yeah, I'd say she's pretty kooky. Definitely kooky. She's got kind of a little cult type thing going on, and
Exactly a little
she
cult.
she's big. She's like you're just picturing her on the grandest stage of them all. She is like a ringleader like no other. She's got a three-ring circus going on, and she is the center of attention. What was it like getting to just, like again, because you've been in a lot of other projects where usually the goal is to act very natural and be real, whereas this, you're still being real, but you get to be like big as big can be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I love playing larger than life characters. Doesn't come by that often. So to me, it was real. Like the way she was written on the page, like it couldn't have come out any other way. So it was written there. She talks a lot and she's got these big grand ideas, and just the way she's uh my favorite ad lib line from Nick Swarson at one point, he looks at her and he says, "Did you lose your spaceship?" But she really does talk like that. She's just from another planet. So yeah, it was very easy to fall into that.
Well, I'm curious, and like, have you ever been like invited into like a cult like situation before? Because like it can be, we've heard stories about, in acting that these things can happen, right? I'm just curious, has it ever happened to you?
I No, it hasn't. I don't think. Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with a friend about this the other day who's fascinated with cults. And I said, yeah, I don't think I'm a target. I think I would just walk right the other way. I don't usually join groups. I'm not a joiner. I'm a bit of a lone wolf. So I haven't. But funny thing is, I do teach classes. I teach a lot of voice work and body work for actors. And annoyingly, sometimes in the work, I have a few students go, it's like we'll do chanting and we'll do physical work and vocal work, and they're like, it's kind of like a cult. Nothing like a cult.
Yeah, they don't know what a cult is if they think
No.
just some chanting and choral voice work is a cult, for God's sake. It's funny that you brought up your teaching, because we just got an email in from Dan M who said, hey, is Carmel a teacher as well? And the answer is right there. Yes, she is.
I am.
Yeah, with what you're describing, like obviously, like I get it. You haven't been invited in, and like because you're a lone wolf, and what you're talking about, like I could almost see you having your own cult then. Like did you be the leader in charge and like
This is why she got cast as Phoenix. Yeah.
right? Like this is. I only kid. I kid. I know character. What's that?
You're not the first person to say this, because people who know me, and again, no, I would never have a cult, but people who know me are like, "Oh, you're so perfectly cast for this," and I'm like, "Am I offended about this?" I
Wow. I don't know how I would take that if somebody said that about me. It's like, you'd make a really great cult leader.
No.
That just, all that really means is you have a commanding personality and people want to get close to you. That's what that means.
Oh, I see. So that's how you spin it for yourself. Okay.
Well, I've had a number of people tell me I could be a cult leader, so that's how I see it. Okay.
How it is.
Oh man, but Carmel, on this set, I know it was a really comfortable set for you, and you guys were all joking around. It was a comedy, but I heard that Nick Swarsden was every now and then was like giving you some alternate line reads and just kind of throwing out to you.
Yes, he was. I think he does that. I think he does that like as a job sometimes on oh, I can't remember his name, some famous comedians. But I think, I mean, it's what he does. So he had free reign to throw out ideas. You know that licking scene near the end of the movie?
Yeah.
We're in the scene and it's written as like this kind of aggressive kiss, and Nick's like, you should lick his face. Throwing it out there. And I was like, I was thinking the same thing, but I wasn't going to say it. You know, he would constantly throw out these great ideas. And it's funny because he always knew with a blank face that it would be funny. He would just say, that'd be funny. And then I did it and it was funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, again, I've known a lot of comedians, and a number of comedians don't laugh. They just go, that's really funny. That's, yeah. It's like, I know it. It's funny. There you go.
It's so weird because you expect everybody to be, you know, especially comedians, to be laughing. But, you know, and what you described, Carmel, I'm just wondering, like, about that, like that whole experience, right? Because obviously, Josh Duhamel, you know, who stars and is the director of this is his first directorial experience. You know, what was
actually it's the second. He did the first Buddy Games too.
See, there you go. Right. See, I screwed that up. See, there goes
goes
the reach. I'm firing my assistant.
Buddy Games and Buddy Games Spring Awakening. You can watch them together as one epic 4-hour film. There you go.
Yes. Yeah, no, yes. But working with a director who is also an actor, you know, what was that like? You know, because I got, like, in my mind, I always think of actor directors as, you know, being kind of selfish, you know, like it. No, I'm just being serious, right? Because like they're both, like, they're starring in it, you know, in some capacity, but also they are the boss of the whole production, right? Like, and you're working with your boss and it's your scene partner and things like that. Like, it's that, I gotta imagine that's got to be sometimes difficult or is challenging, is, I guess, is the better word.
I bet it was, and that's a great question. I think Josh handled it immaculately. So first of all, he trusted everyone. He trusted the guys, the buddies. He trusted me, maybe not right away, but in time, like as he got to know me, he was like, you know, he didn't, and honestly, he was wearing so many hats. He was juggling and doing so much that it was all just very fluid for him. And he was like, I mean, it's like he was, even his acting was so chill and smooth because he wasn't even thinking about it. He was like, I got so many other things to do. You know, so there wasn't a ton of direction. And I don't say that like a bad thing. I think everyone was just flowing, and sometimes the guys would throw in ideas and they would try it and it would work or not work. And he would, of course, nix it or say yay or nay or all that. But for the most part, everyone just did their thing, and he welcomed all these great ideas as far as a director. And then a few times I really appreciated, there was a couple moments in the movie for me specifically, that these really funny gag moments that I didn't come up with, but he was like, oh, also you can do this and you can do that. It was like 2 or 3 times, but they were golden moments that I really appreciated.
Was that, I got to imagine too, that having somebody who is also an actor, like that language between you, like being able to communicate so easily, because I'm sure you've had directors who are not actors, who that could be a little bit more challenging trying to get you know, your point of view or their point of view across to each other.
It's so easy with Josh.
Yeah,
it's awesome. We got an email in from Bart C, who says, hey to the geeks, starting to listen to your show every week now. Thank you very much, Bart. Yeah. Does Carmel speak Spanish? I heard that she does. If so, hola.
Hola. Hablo un poquito español. Aprendí en México cuando tenía 80 años. I can basically get around when I'm in South American countries and get what I want, but it's not fluent.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
See, I also know a little bit. You know, I know cinco cerveza por favor, and that's what I stick with. And that's no matter what, if I'm lost, you know, if you're looking for a bathroom, if
5 beers will help scare off.
You might need also, where's the bathroom?
Right? Like you never know is what I'm saying.
Those are good ones.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. No. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, you know, like, because these days there's the big budget films, and then there's the really small indies, and all this is obviously a smaller budget. This kind of goes into the mid-level, which we don't see as much anymore. But I found it really interesting because while I'm watching, I can see it's like, oh, they did this by like Josh figured out by compartmentalizing it, like splitting up the group, doing kind of like mini movies within. And so like your story, you were just kind of mostly dealing with Josh and Nick
Mhm.
and their story. And so it was like your, like, although you were in the first half of the film, in the second half of the film, it's like your story is its own mini movie that they have to get out of. You're like an escape room to them in a sense.
Yes.
Oh, so with that, it's kind of, it was interesting the route they took, because there is kind of, it's a very fun tongue-in-cheek commentary on quote unquote wokeness. Like it's something, if anybody looked at it super seriously either way, they'd be like, you're not getting the joke. Very
Right.
much. So for you, was it a lot of fun to explore these subjects in such a fun way?
It was. I appreciated being. So here's the thing. First of all, when you say woke, there's like different definitions of the word, or maybe
That's why I
like,
said quote unquote. Yeah.
yeah. And like the woke that is like the way that they're doing it in the movie is not what like someone who's woke would be
No, of
like,
course not.
woke,
Yeah.
right? And all of that. But it's become that, right? Like it's become that for the mass majority who aren't, and it's extreme, and it can be like, there's this, so we have to be able to make fun of it, I think.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not for everyone. There are jokes in that movie that might rub people the wrong way, and I guess that's part of comedy sometimes. And so
Yeah.
I was okay with it because it is so fun and playful. But I realized that there could be audience that don't want to get that joke.
Yeah,
Right.
I think the best comedies will always have like not the whole thing, but a portion, like 10%, let's say, for example, to put a number on it randomly, that is questionable, I guess,
Challenging in some way.
kind of push the buttons a little bit, because otherwise
Otherwise, it's just about my father and you're half asleep. That's basically it.
right.
But anyway.
I often watch like stand-up comedy with my husband, and he's just laughing away, and I'm like, it's just not doing it for me, right? But he's just having a great time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
comedy, yeah, it's
Do you have that? Do you have that when you guys watch like other TV shows or movies, or like when you're watching entertainment together besides comedy shows, like that one of you laughs more? Because I find that with me and my wife, I find that she's laughing hysterically about something, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's funny,
David loves to laugh, so he'll laugh bigger than he needs to, and he just like, and sometimes, and then my son and I are like, it's not that funny, David. It's just like, so yes, he laughs more than I do.
Very good. Actually, I just got a message from the people at Reality Radio 101. I have to say that my opinions about the film about my father do not represent anyone at the station. So that comment I made recently, it does not represent the station. So do not hold the station accountable for not loving the Maniscalcos movie. I have no problem with the man. The movie was just bad. But anyways.
Terrible.
But of course, aside from acting in film and television, you're also a thespian of the stage, and I believe you have a play that's opening tonight. Correct?
It actually opened last night.
Opened last night. Okay.
Yes, Truth and Lies is the title.
Is the title, and that's it's all about the internet, right? And what we read on it.
Yeah, it was originally inspired by themes in Othello, which have to do with deception and like choosing to believe something, and how deep down a rabbit hole it can take you to eventually murder your wife, if you know Othello.
Yeah.
But then they completely took, like, it's got nothing, I mean, a viewer would never know it's got to do with Othello. So they're dealing with like in the contemporary world where the internet has information on it, and people find what they want to believe, and it can get pretty radical. So it's pretty serious topics, but it's a very fun play. It's very light. It's very dreamy. Like it's not very clear cut. There's 4 different parts to it. One of them is a VR show, which was really cool. We shot like a mini movie in VR. I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Nice.
So like we're all up. You go in and you see these actors like all up in your face, and then And then the other three, yeah, like very different genres, very different. One of them's kind of like a Monty Python sketch, another one's quite serious. And so, yeah, it's all over the place. We had a great opening night, and it was received with a lot of good intellectual discussion afterwards.
Oh,
There
that's
you go.
good.
The best stuff always is. That's every time I've gone to a play where you're the drive home or the dinner afterwards, you know, you're like where the good heated discussions come out. That's when you know you've seen something that's like touching you in some way, right? Like that, and that's awesome. That sounds like what you described sounds amazing. Like I wish I was out there to see it. That's because that sounds, especially with all the like the VR portions, like the different ideas. Is that something that you still really love about doing stage versus say like a television or a movie show? You know, because you can kind of stretch those muscles a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Another element of the show, for example, is that the audience doesn't get to sit down. It's almost like a gallery space, and there's projections everywhere, and the actors are in different places, and the audience is encouraged to walk around. And so then they'll be here, and all of a sudden something happens over here, and they have to scurry over or choose to watch from far away. But in the meantime, there's a lot of technology in the show too. So people are on live, you know, Snapchat conversations that are being projected. So there's a lot of technical stuff, and people can be watching you live and on a screen at the same time. So things like that you can't do in film, and it's just stretching your capacity as a performer and a director, if you were to direct something like that. But capacity as a performer to handle and manage and juggle all of those things and still do a good acting job.
Mm. Yeah, you have over the past few years kind of gotten very experienced with immersive theater. I know that you did the show in your home, and you're also involved in the first live streaming live performance during the pandemic. So like that must give like an extra rise to you. Like it must really like add some adrenaline to your performance, knowing that you're doing stuff that is so connected with your audience.
Yeah, it's scary. The one I did in my home, I directed. A friend of mine wrote. It was titled Doll, written by Marie Queenan. And yeah, it was a big, long hour and a half, something like that, monologue where she just tells about her life. And she was right up in people's business. They were actually in my home. She's cooking for them, preparing cocktails, talking, and getting them to divulge information too. There was like an element to the show where she would ask them personal questions. For example, like, what's the worst thing you've ever said to your mother? And it was amazing to watch. She executed it so beautifully, and it was in the style that we were working that allowed her to do so. And people really shared, and people cried, and people laughed, and people wanted to share more, and she had to shut them down. And then at the end of the show, she has to go out on this date, and she's not the most wholesome lady. And so the whole audience by the end of one of the shows is like, don't go. And it was so genuine. They're like, just stay with us. It's okay. You don't have to go on this, you know. So there was like, it's so cool to have, they're basically her acting partners unbeknownst to them. Does any of that make sense?
It does.
Oh yeah.
And that sounds like a really cool experience as well. Like everything you've described so far, I'm like, I'm jealous that I haven't been able to experience this myself. Like those are really cool, funny.
You're just gonna have to move to Vancouver, Green.
Right. Well, clearly this is what's gonna have to happen. That's it. I'm booking my flight right now.
Toronto. Where are you guys?
Oh, we're in Toronto.
You are in Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marie just moved to Toronto, and she wants to do the show in Toronto. So if it happens, I'll let you guys know.
Oh, there we go.
That would be cool. Yeah. It's theater is always one of those things where it's like you never know what you're going to get sometimes, especially like when you don't go see like a Shakespeare or something, obviously, right? But like more newer independent theater, like really cool ideas come out that that you're not seeing when you go see something like the big stuff, right? Like the Shakespeare's, the Pinters, or whatever, and you get some really cool, like what you're describing, right? Like being in a home, or the show you did with the 30,000 square foot building, and you're going different floors, and you guys are traveling around with the audience. Like that's super cool and crazy idea. Like, again, not something we get to see off television or in movies, because we're just sitting in a darkened space alone.
So it becomes more experiential for the viewer.
Yeah.
So you want just say we numb out when we watch media, but there is a certain like letting go, and I don't need to be involved and I can just relax, right? Which is great. And there's so much value and joy to that. But in this type of theater, the audience we're asking a little more of the audience, which is again, not for everybody, but we're asking a little more involvement and a little more vulnerability even from the audience.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I could see some people being involved at like being a little like what, you know, especially when you're divulging secrets about yourself, you know, like what's the worst thing you've said about your mom or to your mom or something like that's, I could see
I'd
some
have to
rough
think
answers.
about that, man.
Yeah, you're
You know exactly what it is. I'm kidding.
I'm not sure which one it is. That's the thing.
And some people didn't want to share things, and we let them alone. We didn't push or, you know, make people uncomfortable or push them
right.
to do something. It's like when people wanted, you can tell they want and they want to play.
Right.
It's a game.
Of course. Of course. It's a game. It seems it all goes back to games here. And I think with the buddy games, another reason why you were probably a great fit with that cast and that story is because you can't say no to a dare.
Yes.
So was there any point during the filming of the buddy games where someone took advantage of that?
No, but it's like the lick situation. It was like, we should lick his face. Yeah. You know, and I think Josh even was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "No, I'm so sorry you have to lick my face." And and I was like, "No, like, yeah, let's try fun stuff. You know, let's do whatever. What else? I don't know." You know, there wasn't anything. I wish I had a fun story, but for the most, yeah, it was just so playful.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, licking Josh Duhamel's face, that's a story right there. That's a story, definitely.
Story, yeah.
I haven't done it myself. You know, I'm jealous of you. That would be, you know,
I'm sure a lot of people are.
Right. Who wouldn't want to lick Josh Duhamel's face? You know, he's so dreamy.
There you go. Oh my God. Well, Carmel, I want to thank you for coming on the program. It's been a delight talking with you. Of course, the Buddy Game Spring Awakening is available on Paramount Plus.